Hello everyone, welcome back to FrostyFriday Snowflake challenges. So today what we're going to do is look at week number 3. So in here, the third challenge is in week 1 we looked at ingestion as free data. Now it's time to take that a step further. So this week we've got a short list of tasks for you all to do. The basics aren't sorry about Michael, so you just got your head a little bit once you start building the solution. So it says here, the key takeaways are it has an S3 bucket that was filled with CSV data dumps. These dumps aren't very complicated and all have the same style and content. So I should believe they should share the same schema, same column names, I would reckon. And all of these files should be placed into a single table. Yes, so if it's a single table, that means a single table will have, a number of columns. Even if all the files share the same style and content, that means they share the same column name. So basically what you do is consolidate all the files from the S3 bucket into a single table. All right, so what's next? So however, in my code, there's some important data uploaded as well. These files have a different naming scheme and need to be tracked. So we need to have the metadata stored for reference in a separate table. You can recognize these files because of a file inside of the S3 bucket. Okay, so it's a bit of, work to do in terms of handling metadata. So we need to ensure what are the files that's currently under the S3 bucket and work from there on, right? So yeah. So it says this file keywords.csv contains all the keywords that mark a file as important. So our objective is create a table that lists all the files in our stage that contain any of the keywords in the keyword CSV file. So we have given an bucket URI. So this is what I'm going to do is just copy, paste into here. So let's just have this for reference. And then we have a result. Your result should look like this. Let me see. So it should have a file name and it should have number of rows. So your output should contain two columns. One is file name and one is the number of rows per files, right? Yes, the first thing what I'm going to do is just going back to Snowflake. Okay, we have copied this one out. So similar to, let me select this database here. Schemas are similar to week number 1. What we're going to do is we're going to create a stage, right? So I'm going to do is create or replace. Let's call it, um, let's say challenge. Let's go free stage, right? So I'm going to do is say URL equal to this. All right, let's go something like this, right? So let's just run this code and let's see what we get. URL. Oh, replace stage. My bad. Replace stage. All right, we have stage area challenge free stage successfully created. So let's see or list down all the files within the stage, right? So you say list at challenge free stage. All right, let's see what we got here. So we got 9 files, 9 CSV files. So for now, I'm not really bothered on the last 3 columns here. I'm just gonna look into quickly skim read the first column with the file names. So week 3 day R, right? Keywords.csv. If you remember the question, not the question, the statement as given is these dumps aren't very complicated and all have the same style and contents. All of these files should be placed into a single table. So I guess if you see these files here, we need to understand, okay, do they share the same column names, right? So the one thing I would do is, okay, before doing that, is I'm just going to create a file format, right? So create or replace file format, CSV format, right? This is a part of CSV. So I say type CSV. So if it's CSV, you want to do skip header equals 1, right? Something like this. All right, going back to the Excel sheet. So let me quickly see how many columns. Let's pick up any of this. Let's pick up. Let's just see. Pick up the first one, keywords.csv for now, and then because I do understand that keywords.csv is completely different compared to those files here because the prefix is week 3 underscore data, right? So I'm going to do is just quickly look into those first two and see what the column headers are. So what I'm going to do is select. So what we've shown back in week 1, the faster method, right? So I'm going to do select from table, info schema, right? Location. And what I'm going to do is copy the location, which is stage. Let me just do something like this, comma, files. So I'm going to pick up, let's just do week 3. So I'm going to do week, let's go data 1, right? Don't forget the .csv. File format is going to be, make sure it's an arrow sign, yeah? Within the info schema, syntax should be always a arrow sign here, yeah? File format. So file format is called CSV format. Yeah, so something like this. I'm gonna do something like this. And then I'm gonna do ignore case equals true, just making sure that these columns are all capital. Alright, something like this, right? Just run this, let's check for any errors. Alright, I've got something like this. So for week 3 data, I've got something called column name C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. Okay, really, this is not really telling me exactly what the columns are. So I can see, look at the expression, I can see that, okay, C1 is a numbered column, whereas C2 to C4 are text, varchar, and C5 is date, right? So what I can do is, okay, there are literally, let's say, 5 columns. Let me quickly check, going back to the stage. So I know for a fact that this particular CSV has 5 columns. So I don't really need to check for the rest because I know they do have the same number of columns as week 3 data 1. Let me quickly check on keywords CSV. So I'm going to do is keywords.csv, right? It's going to run that. Oh, this has 3 columns on the all varchars, right? All right. Now I understand that if going back to your staging, so I know that these files that says prefix of week 3 have 5 columns, whereas this keywords .csv has 3 columns. So what I'm going to do is what I've shown you before on week number 1, metadata, file name, metadata. Let's just see the metadata in here. Let's dig deep into the data here. Let's see what else we can find. So this is the first column, second column, third column, fourth, and the last column, right? 5. So I'm going to do a new line here from challenge. Let's go for the stage. Yeah, I think let's see what we get from here. Something like this. All right. Okay, let me see what I can do. Let me just order this by instead of me ordering by saying metadata file name, right? So instead of just writing down as metadata file name, or if you have a long column name with, let's say 15 characters long or whatever, you can just say order by 1. If I put order by 1, that means you will order this table by the first column. If you do order by 2, you will order this table by the second column. So I'm just going to order by 1, right? Let's just see what we can find here. All right. So now you can see that keywords, if you see something like this, okay, it has three columns, right? Three columns. So therefore you can see that column number 4 and column number 5 is null, right? For keywords we have checked earlier, it has three columns, right? Metadata file row number. So number 1, where it says 1 in here, this is going to be your column names, right? And this is going to be your first row, second row, and the third row, right? So what I can do is, I'm going to say where metadata file row number equals 1, right? So this is telling me, okay, I want to see all the CSV files and all the column name, right? So if I just execute this, all right, you can see here, keywords.csv has 3 columns, whereas all the other CSV files that has a prefix of week 3 has 5 columns, and they all share the same column names, right? So that's good. So it's just making sure that, okay, before attempting the question, make sure you just dig deep into this metadata table and see if it makes sense to you to, making sure that it meets the criteria, right? Making sure that, okay, all the CSV files that has a prefix of week 3 share the same column names, whereas keywords is separate compared to the other CSV files, right? So the reason why we do this is, if you see here, it mentions here, right? So these dumps are very complicated and have all the same style and contents. All of these files should be placed into a single table. So what we can do is, if you know how copy into function works, we can create a table just for those 5 here, and then what we can do is, okay, I want to dump all these CSV files into that particular table here, right? So one table. So basically we create one table for keywords, right, with 3 columns, and we create one table for all of this, right? Now, what we're gonna do is just gonna create a table here. So create or replace. Let's start off with the single consolidated table. Let's just call this week 3 all files, something like this, right? So what I'm gonna do is ID. I'm just gonna keep everything as Svarcha for now. First name. Oh, okay, wait. You know what? Let me quickly see. So this is not telling us what the data types are, right? This bit here, this piece of code tells me what the data types are, right? Let me just change it to week number 3. Let me just go back to here. Change this to week 3 data 1. So it's number, text. So I'm going to say something like this. So I'm going to do number here and date at the end, right? So this is how you, if you're unclear of what the data types are, you can just quickly run this info schema keyword in Snowflake, and then it would tell you what the data types are. So if you just want to run this, so let me just run this quickly, and let's see what the table looks like. Okay, we expect to see an empty results, right? Okay, now what's next is we want to use the copy into function, right? We created the stage, we created the file format, we created a table. So if you go back to this piece of code here, so let's say not this one, sorry, my bad, this staging. So these are the files that we need to insert into this table here. So what I'm gonna do is just copy this. It's gonna paste on here, right? So I'm gonna do is copy into this table, week 3 all files from the staging name something like this. Now, what I'm gonna do is just say file format equals CSV format, right? And then in here, okay, the way we do it is we could use something called files. Files, so we're gonna pick up all the remaining CSV files, something like this, right? So I'm gonna do is put a literal here, a comma, put a literal comma here. Okay. If you run this, okay, notice I've got an error, right? Let me see. Let's copy this bit here. So I've got something like this. This is not the same as the one we see in here, right? So what I'm gonna do is S3 bucket challenge 3. Okay. So I'm gonna do delete up to here, right? So I'm gonna do is do something like this and delete, right? So you only need to keep this bit here, right? Because basically I've deleted something like this, right? And this is exactly the same as the one below, right? So what I'm gonna do is run the copy command again. So I'm gonna do, see it's working. Okay, it's really loaded, right? Now going back, seeing all the files here, let's see what the table looks like now. Okay, we have how many? 5,000 rows, right? We have 5,000 rows in here. Now that's done for the first initial table. Now what we need to do is for the second table, right? So I'm gonna do is keywords. Just go back to doing keywords, CSV. Okay, C1, C2, C3. So of course, if you just run this, what the column names, keyword added by nonsense, and they're all varchar, right? So I'm gonna do is create or replace table, say keywords. Okay, let's just keep this to say keywords. What they say here, week 3. Let's call this week 3 keywords. Keywords. And here what I'm gonna do is keyword. Just keep as a varchar because they're all text. Okay. Just remember, if you put text here, it's also similar to varchar, right? So it's varchar. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is run this. Okay, and see what the table looks like. Free keywords. All right, empty table. Again, what we need to do is similar to this, and we're going to do we're just going to add one CSV file, which is called keywords.csv. Keywords.csv. And it should be copy into this table name. It's copy into table name from location, file format. You give your file format, files, keyword.csv, right? Let's quickly check. Oh, that's a command there. Okay. Okay, loaded free. So run the table again, so you can see I've got the table here. Quick tip. I think if you see here, we have done quite a bit of a manual work, especially doing all this. Imagine you have 1,000 files that has a prefix of week 3. So I'm not going to have 1,000 lines of code in here, right? What you can do in Snowflake, we have something called, instead of calling a files, let me show you, we have something called pattern, right? So what I can do is I can do something like this. Pattern, so you don't need those brackets in here. instead of week 3 data. So if you just go back to the list of files, they share the same prefix, week 3 underscore, right? Or week 3 underscore data even. And after the letter A, that's where it's different, right? You have 1, 2, all the numbers, right? So what I can do is something like pattern. I can do something like this. Week 3, put a star in here, right? Something like this, right? So this will also work, right? This will also work. So I'm going to do just .csv or something like this, right? This will probably work too. Don't forget the dot. Sorry, yes, a dot asterisk .csv. Something like this will work too, right? So you don't need to do something like this manually. So if you have, for example, files and files that has the same prefix, you could do something like this, and this will execute everything in one go, right? So just bear this in mind. So it uses pattern method here on copy into, but for now we use files. So now going back to this, okay, I've got 2 tables. So let's just quickly investigate those 2 tables, right? So it's gonna have those 2 line by line. So what's it called? Week 3. Let me just copy this bit here. Copy this bit here. Okay, I've got everything that I need. I've got 5,000 records in here. I've got 3 rows in here, right? So you can clearly see what are the key differences, right? So if you see the keyword column, if you forget these last 2 columns, I can see that these are file names, right? So if you see here, okay, I should have done a better naming here, but this is just a table, right? But we don't get to see the file names here. If you look into this particular code, just copy paste that below, so we can just have a better view. First copy on here. We have extra, added, and forgot to upload. So this is similar to what we've got in the keywords table, right? So I expect, let's see, let me just quickly see in here. So if I just remove this, let me just quickly do something. If I just remove this, and then let me see, let's say what's the data file name, like let's say forgot, right? Let me just quickly see something in here, right? So okay, I've got 12 here, right? Let me just do 12, right? Let me just comment those with 12 as you count, right? But remember, bear in mind, this is not really 12. I mean, because the number 1, this is your columns, right? So it's going to be 11. It's 11. So I'll also send a keyword extra. So I'm just going to do, so 11 count, let me just do, okay, let me just, what I can do is just copy this 3 times, or I can just reuse whatever. So I'm just going to do edit and extra, right? But if you see keywords, again, just to recap, I've got Stacy forgot to upload. This is this bit here, extra here, and added, right? So I'm gonna run this bit here. Let me see what the count is. 13. So takeaway 1 is 12 because this first one is just the columns, right? So this is gonna be, oh sorry, so it's gonna be 13 for added and extra. Let me just run extra. Extra is gonna be 12, right? 12. So what I'm gonna do is just order this something like this, right? So if you look back to the question, we have given a result, right? So we need, I mean, the output is going to be a table with 2 following columns, the file name and number of rows. So 11, 12, 13. So 11 for Stacy forgot to upload, 12 for extra, and 13 for added. So going back to this type of analysis, I've got exactly the same, right? Now what we do is we're going to write a code that generates something like this as a table, right? So what I can do is, I mean, there's multiple methods you can do, right? Of course, if you're working with this type of data, even if you just run like from here, right? You can easily identify, okay, I want to get the maximum raw number, right? And then I want to use a filter the file name by, these three, right? And you can get that answer quicker. But that's not what I'm going to do, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go take a step by step just to see what I can find within the metadata file. So I will start with those two columns and see whether I can get the output from there, right? And because we have got another table, we have got another table called keywords. I'm gonna try not really join, but of course you can join those two tables because even if you join those two tables, right, it's going to be a bit complicated, right? Because you have ID, right? It's going to be like, for example, primary key. But what's the primary key in keywords, right? That's not like an actual primary key in here. So what I would do is, okay, I want to check, right? I would get only files whose name matches the pattern in the keywords files, right? So I'm going to go look through these files. Okay. Look, not this table. I'm just going to use this table for now. I'm going to look through this table here, right? Let me just run this again. Look through the file name, which matches the pattern in this table here, right? So if you just want to go through here, okay, let's just say extra keywords. Okay, that is extra, right? So there's a matching pattern. So I want to get that column as an output, right? That single row as an output, similar to those two. So the way I can do is let me construct those two columns first. So select metadata file name, right? This is your first column. It's called as file name, similar to what we've got here, file name. And then what I'm going to do is so metadata row is just giving you, if you see here, metadata row number, metadata file row number is basically giving you the number of rows, not literally the count, right? So what we're going to do is going to do count star on this, right? So I'm going to do count star. So I'm going to do count star, or you can do count metadata file row number, right? You need to get an aggregation. And then I'm going to say this as number of rows, right? So I'm going to do number of rows. And then I'm going to say from. So you're not going to use this table because it does not have those two columns in, right? What you could do is I could have called that from the location itself, right? So what's the code in here? It's called challenge stage, right? Challenge free stage. So I'm just gonna put this button here. Challenge free stage, right? So group by file name, right? So just gonna run this. Okay, so we have got these rows. Let me just order this by one, right? One meaning order this by file name, the first column. So run this again. Okay, so I said that any keyword that has the name forgot to upload is 11, but I've got 12 here. Extra, I've got 13. So edit, I've got 14. So the reason why is we have not added the file format in here, right? So I told the farmer to skip the first line, right? Anything that has the first row is denoted as a column, right? So we need to disregard that, right? So what I'm going to do is in here, say file format, right? Arrow sign. So what I'm going to do here is the name of the file format, CSV format, right? CSV format. Yeah, that's how it's okay. CSV format. So if I just run this, so I've got forgot to upload CSVs 11, 12, and 13, which is exactly the same that we got in here, right? Now, if you look into this, right? So I just bear in mind that even if you give the file format on a copy into activity, make sure it's an equal sign here, right? Whereas if you're doing something similar to this, but you're selecting the metadata, right, with the file names and $1 or all the columns, make sure if you give a file name, it should be an arrow sign, right? Or else you will get an error. So I'm going to group by file name, order by one. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap this around with a CTE. Let me see. With, let's say, all week 3 files, right? As open up this, we'll close it off in here. Select. So I'll call this file name, both rows, right? From all week 3 files. Let me see. Let me work with this one out. All right, same. So what you can do is, of course, you cannot do something like where file name like and just give something like this. This is not what how it works, right? Because what's the point of creating this table week 3 keywords? So in order to utilize this is I'm gonna do so I will get only files whose name matches the pattern in the keywords file, right? So I'm gonna do where. So in here, what I'm gonna do is let me just give this an alias. So I'm gonna give this 3 week file 3, something like this. And then what I'm gonna do is where let's say exist select keyword, right? So which is of course, if you see here, if you just open up this table here, select keyword from this table, week 3 keywords, right? Something like this. Select keyword from week 3 keywords where, let's say, file name, like, okay, let's see. Select file name where, so exist, right? So basically what I'm doing is, okay, I want to select what we've got now, which is similar to this. I'm going to select the file name number of rows, right? So this gives me all the CSVs, not just those 3. Where, okay, exist. Now get the second table here because I cannot really join because there's no ID or no primary key. But select keyword from week 3 keywords where this file name, like, let's say, so in order to get the wildcard, what you can do is create something like this. So you can't say something, okay, keyword, right? So I'm just saying keyword. This is not how it works, right? This will only, it should be keyword here, right? So it should be only looking for columns, oh sorry, rows that has the word keyword in them. This is not how it works, right? In order for you to find the whole column itself, what you can do is you can use like pattern characters, right? So if you just do that, concatenate keyword, just make sure you understand the difference. So this bit here, right? Something like this. So the reason why I did this is if you see here, select keyword, right? I want to select keyword, yeah, this particular column, the first column, right? Where the file name in this table that we've seen has these rows in them. So that column, right? Bear in mind, I did not put this in literal, right? Has this column in them, right? So if you just run this, let me see if this works. Let's see. Okay, here we go. 11, 12, 13, which is exactly the same as we got here. So again, to recap, so what I did here is, if I just run this, so this is giving me all the CSVs, right, with all the volume per CSV file, right, the number of rows. But I'm only interested only the record that has the keyword in them, right? So for example, if you see here, if I run the keyword file, so I'm only interested in looking into those three records. So days forgot to upload, extra and added, right? So in order to do that, what I did is, okay, I want to select the file name and number of rows, right? Where, so I'll just use the where clause, and then I introduce the second table, which we have created with three keywords. So I want to select the keyword where the file name, right? Where the file name in the other table has these keywords in them, right? And this will allow me to get the final output here, right? Let me just run this. So this allows me to get this final output. So yeah, that's how it works, right? I think there are n number of methods you can do. I think you can use the join method using the contain Snowflake keyword. There's one you can do that. But I think in terms of simplicity and understanding what it's doing, I prefer using this wildcard character here. So yeah, that's all for week 3. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.